good news. Good news. According to the experts and the predictions here, Fortune magazine put out an article, say goodbye to the standard 3% raise. 1/4 of employers plan to give increases of 5 to 7% next year. Wow. Okay, let's look at the data. This is coming from David Turetsky. That's an unfortunate name. I'm sure he got picked on a lot with that in high school. He is a VP of consulting at Salary.com. He said the increases have gone up from what had been 3% for many years. It's now budgeted for 4% and potentially higher for next year. New data released by Salary.com, a software company that provides compensation data and analytics, found that the median pay increase of 4% is continuing an upward trend that began in 2022. That's absolutely correct. We begin to see much higher. But what we're talking about here is the standard, which has been really hovering at 3% for many, many years. We saw pay increases much higher, 15, 20%, and that's still happening. But what we're talking about is what the companies are going, okay, as a company, our policy is if you're doing a good job, you have your annual blah, 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 this is what we're looking at. We've been given 3% bumps, and we're going to now raise that, okay? So that is a new rule in the world of work. I absolutely agree with this data. He continued on to say, we usually see job switchers get large pay increases when they go to other places. That's exactly what I was just saying. Now we're seeing people who are what we call stayers, people who stay in roles, or are saying, well, what about me? And that's reasonable, right? I stayed. You piled it on me, man. Show me some love. It's natural. And so the 4% increases are an attempt to placate or pacify. And I mean that. I use those two words very, very intentionally. The temptation, leaders, is to look at the external situation and what's going on out there and go, oh gosh, I don't want to lose our team. So I'm gonna raise them. I'm gonna raise them. Give them a raise. Well, if you're not helping them experience purpose and meaning in their work by getting them on the right seat of the bus, if you're not if you're not intentionally praising and recognizing their unique contribution, if you are not developing a coach or mentor relationship with them, they have no reason to stay. And the paycheck bump is just a Band-Aid at best. But I'm still happy for it. Still happy. But it's not enough. Now, what about executives? A lot of class warfare out there you see in the media and stuff like this. So do these increases include executives? The survey found that the median 4% increase planned for 2023 by about 25% of companies is across all categories, executives, managers, and exempt and non-exempt employees. However, the data showed that the actual median increase in 2022 for executives was 3.5% compared to 4% for all other categories. Why is that true? Well, you got a lot of leaders going, hey, I'm paid well. I want to take less, and let's see if we can spread the surplus around. Or not surplus, but spread what would be my equivalent of the 4% and spread it around. And then when you look at executive salaries, it is important to note that we're talking the larger the company, and certainly in publicly held companies, most of executives' compensation comes from stock anyway. So you might say, well, they made $20 million last year. Well, that's not in base salary. That would be stocks, options, and things of that nature, because they can do that. Companies have that option to do that. It's found money, if you will. For an example, the median pay packet for leaders of S&P 500 companies rose roughly 12% to $14.7 million that year. But again, most of that is stock. Okay, I know that doesn't make some of you who can't stand when executives get paid a lot of money feel better, but it is important to at least know what's going on there. Okay, so there you go. So why do I share that with you? Maybe staying is the best option. And I think that it's hard for a lot of people to think, well, I've seen a lot of my friends and coworkers go get huge bumps. And they're tempted to go for the bigger paycheck when if all of the people leaving and all the bumps weren't a part of the current climate, they wouldn't be thinking about leaving because they're on the right ladder, on the right rung, and there is great opportunity for them there. But I just want to let everybody off the hook. If you've been distracted by, man, I could go over here and make more money. Listen, that's the natural human reaction. But I will tell you that if you're not careful, you let that tempt you or you let that gnaw at you. If you let that tempt you, you'll make a move that is really good in the short term. In other words, more money in my bank account and more status because I got a better title. But that wears off. So it's only good in the short term because it actually takes you off the path or off the ladder that you're supposed to be on. Okay? Now that's the distract you or tempt you. The gnaw at you is the idea that you sit where you are and you just look at everybody else. You go, they're making more money and they're making more money. We start playing that comparison game. And now that becomes something that builds into deep resentment. And you become toxic pretty quickly. And you don't want that. Okay? So if you are where you are, I still think you can win financially and get good bumps. But you must have your eye on the prize, the long term. All right. Now, for those of you who want to ask for a raise, you go, can I? How do I do it? Well, I wrote a detailed article on this. It's a 2 to 3 minute read. It's called How to Ask for a Raise. You can go get it at the mothership website, RamseySolutions.com. How to ask for a raise. That's all you got to search. How to ask for a raise. Ken Coleman will get you there as well. And so I just want to briefly walk through the article. It's a short read, much more detailed, but I want to hit a couple of things in the article. First, before we ever ask for a raise, I want you to do a thorough, and I mean thorough, assessment of yourself. And that means you're going to have to get some feedback from people. Meaning, before I ever go into a conversation with my leader about a raise, I want to be self-aware. I need to be very aware of my brand, how I'm viewed, how my work is viewed, what the true value proposition is for what I've done. Because this is not an old school, backroom negotiation. It's not that. But it is a discussion about value exchange. Right? Here's the value I think I bring, and as a result, I'd like to be compensated for that value. It's a value exchange. So it does take on that feel of a negotiation because of that. Okay. Secondly, so the first two things is thorough self-assessment and ask your peers for feedback. And then what you want to do is sit down with your leader and you want to have a conversation around a growth plan. You don't go in and say, hey, based on this, this, and this, I think I deserve a raise. I'd like to see a number. It puts the leader on the defensive as opposed to sitting down and going, hey, here's where I think I stand, but I want to have an ongoing conversation. So when I even present this, I'm not asking for the details and conclusion now. I'm saying, would you be willing to meet with me soon about a growth plan? I want to grow in my responsibilities and thus my influence. And if I do that well, I want it to be measured in a way that I can get growth in my compensation, a growth plan. Would you help me architect it? You're giving them buy-in and allowing them to be a part of the conversation. Go get the article at RamseySolutions.com.